Joining us on the broadcast is Ray Locker, senior journalist, author and columnist with us from Washington, D.C. Thanks very much for being here. First of all, what is your assessment of this reaction that we've seen coming in from these two key states and the sense that the Muslims on the ground really have about Biden's position on Israel?
Well, Biden's position is totally unambiguous. He's very clear about where he stands. And if you don't agree with it, you're not going to agree with him on this. And that is a challenge for him because traditionally Muslim voters across the country have aligned with the Democratic Party. Now, we saw in 2000 there were concerns about how the Clinton administration was handling some terrorist cases, particularly in Florida. And that was one factor that pushed some Muslim voters to George W. Bush in that election, in which he narrowly carried Florida. So it is a real concern. But on the other hand, when you see what happened after 9/11 and the Bush administration's actions with the Patriot Act that were considered by most Muslim Americans to be highly punitive, the alternative is not much better for them. I mean, when you look at President Trump, when he was in office, he didn't even want Muslims to come to the United States, much less do anything else. So they don't have very many good alternatives.
It's interesting, Ray, that all of this is happening while Joe Biden's stance or handling of this conflict has not really done much to help his popularity rankings either. We earlier, on the show itself had looked at how his popularity rankings have not really fared better as far as the Israel-Hamas war is concerned. So all this at what cost is the question?
Well, what are his alternatives? He can't just turn tail and reject Israel's need for support. Israel was attacked. Not much different than what happened in Mumbai in 2008. This was a terrorist attack on a sovereign nation. Innocent people were killed. They were allowed to respond like any country would do. And they're, hindered by the fact that everything they do in response is broadcast around the world. It's much easier to see now what happens in Gaza. And so that is something that Israel has to consider. But for the United States to say to a longtime ally, sorry, you're on your own, is a terrible look for us. And it's not something that really any country that's worth a salt would do.
But what about the sentiment within the Arab and the Muslim community like we just discussed? So at the same time, he is coming off looking bad to them as well. So he is clearly in a tight spot.
He definitely is. I mean, what he's doing is saying to Israel, okay, go in and do what you think you need to do to stop Hamas. But you have to let in aid to the refugees. You have to not do this on a widespread level. And on the West Bank, tell your settlers to stop attacking Palestinians. And privately, we don't know what he's told Netanyahu and his government. And Netanyahu's government is part of the problem. They're filled with a bunch of right-wing people who don't really want the Palestinians to be on the West Bank or in Gaza at all. So they need to take care of their problems too.
Right.
It's not an easy situation for any president. And I would imagine anyone in this position would have the same kind of challenges.
And it remains to be seen how exactly it plays out for Joe Biden. We're leaving it there for the moment. Ray, thanks very much.
Thank you.
WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the updates on the move.